Hi, everyone. Welcome to eLearnChat, where you always learn something new. And today you're going to learn lots of new things. We've got with us Matt Pierce from TechSmith. He's in charge of the TechSmith Academy and has just a ton of experience and background. And you'll recognize his voice. I did the minute we heard him, because if you've watched the tutorials, a lot of that's him. And joining me today is Harold Muliati.
Hi,
he
everyone.
is co-hosting. Did you say something?
Oh, I just said hello
Hi.
to everyone.
Yeah. Leslie couldn't make it today, and we will see her next week. So here we go. And joining us today in what we call our center position of power, total absolute power, we've got Matt Pierce from TechSmith. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing great. So happy to be here today.
Glad you could make it. And when I first we were talking pre-show, I go, I know that voice. we've heard you on a lot of the demos in the past, and you do a great job on those. I know you write them. You're an instructional designer. You're a video guy. How did you wind up at TechSmith?
Well, I was actually working at a pharmaceutical plant doing typical health and safety stuff, instructional design, and this was 13 years ago. 13 years ago now, just as of yesterday. And I was, just looking for something else. It was contract work I was doing, and I lived in Michigan growing up my entire life. And I said to my wife, I said, it's time to find something else. And she said, okay, as long as we stay in this area, because we'd bought a house. And I said, well, I'm going to look in Michigan because there's never any jobs there, just it's close to family.
Yeah.
And then there was this company that said the makers of Snagit. I'm like, I know Snagit, and applied, and the rest is really history. Was very fortunate to come to work for TechSmith, and have been here for a long time, and have been able to do a lot of different things with the company.
Well, I read that you were at one point in charge of customer support or tech support.
Yep, I ended up in a role where I was managing our training team, our technical writers, and also the technical support team, helping the frontline support people, getting them to be successful at helping our customers to overcome. It's interesting because you're seeing your customers at their worst point because they're so mad or frustrated with something that's not working. And so it's a tough job. And, my job was there really to help them to get focused on terms of how do we make that better, keep call times low, but also looking for professional development opportunities for them, because a lot of these people would come in and they got great skills, but no one necessarily wants to be the person who's on the phone for the rest of their lives. They want to move on to do bigger and better things. So got a chance to work with a great staff of people and help them to find new opportunities to grow, develop, and continue to serve customers in a really fantastic way.
No, and I've been one of those customers. One thing we used to always say in here, and we're a consulting firm, so we go out, we meet a lot of clients and stuff. And I know a lot of vendors, and I always tell people, if you're going to develop product, or if you're going to do anything, if you're going to buy any product, buy TechSmith products. And I say this honestly, not just because you're here. We always say, they're the model for good quality software, because frankly, the stuff rarely, if ever, even has a bug. I mean, at least we haven't run into that, and we've used the products a lot. We've had Snagit for ages. We've had Camtasia for a long time, and I think I called once. I had some weird arcane problem, which was actually related to something stupid I did. So it wasn't even really a Camtasia issue. And the gal who helped was really helpful, got it going, and within 10 minutes, everything was fixed, solved, and I figured out what I did wrong. But it's rare when you just call a company right away and it's a fix, and it's even rare that you don't call a lot on some companies, including some of the large e-learning vendors, because quality is not as good as it could be. You guys have been exemplary, and I say that really from the heart, because when you have software that works and you don't run into bugs and it just works, thank you. That really makes our lives a whole lot better. And so that's all I could say is you guys are great.
We really appreciate that. I wish I could say that we never had bugs or we never had issues. And, it's software. There's always people are going to come across something. But what we really do believe in is that quality, and really trying to make it so that when there is a problem that we hope we can fix it, and if we can't fix it, can we make it right?
Yep.
And so we work really hard to be like we said, in that kind of exemplary position, we want to be that to our customers. And
Yeah.
hopefully we're getting that all the time. And I realize there's probably somebody watching this who'll say, well, I had this one experience. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, I hope the majority is always positive. But we do try to make really good software that has as few problems as possible. But sometimes, things happen, and we always try to make it right as best we can.
The only time I ever heard problems, and it wasn't a problem, this is typical user mindset, kind of this way, was when you came out with the Mac version, you had people who knew it on Windows, and the Mac version was a little bit different. They're a lot closer now, but back then they were just enough difference that people were going, I don't get it. And so they started complaining. It doesn't work. It worked fine. It's just that it was different. And it's sort of like the people who rate Amazon. I hate Amazon reviews because you get the 5 stars and then you get the 1 star. It arrived late. What does that have to do with the product? It's like, don't beat up the product because it arrives late. Beat up Amazon shipping, but not the product. So you always have to look at how people rate, and it's probably the same with what you guys go through. And Windows has a habit of ruining a lot of things when they do updates, which they seem to do every day now. So it's just another world, and so that's the other problem we run into. It sometimes it's not a Snagit problem, it's a Windows problem, and then they fix it usually within a day or two. But that's just common. Would you say that?
Well, I think it's a design challenge, right? Like if we take the Camtasia Mac experience at the time, I don't know all the decisions that were going into it, but having been around the company at that time, you have to look at like what could we provide on this platform that's unique and special, that's going to make a great experience. What we didn't probably count on enough is the people that would be migrating over having had this previous experience, and so. Like you said, now the two programs are really much closer together. We've learned from that, but that's, true of any design challenge when you have multiple platforms. What's going to be unique and special about it because of its special properties on that platform versus anything else that you're doing on this other platform.
Yeah, but on the whole, like I said, no problems with any other products. Snagit's been incredible. We used to joke with people. They said, "What's the best e-learning tool out there?" Snagit, and they go, "Huh? What?" Without it, you don't create good e-learning. And it's a lot faster than going to Photoshop or anything else. And for most of what typical e-learning development, you don't need to go into heavy Photoshop. You could do a lot of it with Snagit, and it works. It's just pretty rock solid. And throughout the years, you've added a lot. It's funny, I was looking at your website again today with Sarah. I think you know Sarah. She was the one who invited you onto the show. And she goes, "Oh, they did Jing." I go, "Right, I forgot all about Jing. You guys still support that too."
Yep, it's getting a little out of date. We know that there's some issues because Flash is going away,
right.
And so definitely we're looking at what we need to do and provide for that to make sure that our customers aren't going to be left in the lurch. But
no, Jing was a cool. If I recall correctly, it was free, wasn't it, or really close to free? Yep. I think maybe there were 2 versions.
There was a free version, and then there was a paid version, which got you MP4 video capture and a few other things kind of along with it. But it was like $15 a year.
Nothing.
So it wasn't expensive.
It was cool. I remember you guys called it the Jing project for a while, and it was just a neat. I forgot all about it. It's been so many years. I went, hey, they still have it. That is a cool product. And of course, with Flash going away, that was one of Adobe's smartest moments. Let's ruin Flash. It is funny. Apple and Adobe, if you look at those two, they're both divas in a lot of ways. But Apple wouldn't be anywhere without Adobe. Adobe probably wouldn't have been anywhere without Apple. So they go at it. It's just got no gratitude. So anyway, and unfortunately, Flash lost. It was a good platform. So what's new? What's coming up? Anything exciting with TechSmith? You guys are always doing new things and new versions. What can we expect that you're allowed to tell us?
Well, a little limited on future stuff to talk about, but we just did have a release of Camtasia, Camtasia 2019. That came out at the end of April, and so that was an upgrade, full version upgrade. Got some really great stuff in there. Added some new behaviors, which are kind of like kinetic text or motions that you can add to elements of your screen. added some enhancements and functionality, got some other things in there. But two things I'm really passionate about that I'm working on project-wise that have come out in the last year that I think are really important to talk about. First of all, with that Camtasia release, there is now a Camtasia certification program. So when you buy or upgrade your Camtasia software, if you purchase it's called maintenance, you can think of maintenance as kind of like subscription light, where subscription means that once you end your subscription, you lose the software. Maintenance, you get to keep the software in perpetuity. However, what you also get is priority support, technical support, and you get access to that Camtasia certification. So certification it contains 15 hours of training materials. It's got quizzes, it's got project files, and it walks you start to finish through using Camtasia. So if you really want to learn in depth some things that you can do with Camtasia, it's a great way to go about doing that. Plus, you get the certification. So at the end of the day, you can post it on your LinkedIn, you can put it on your resume, you can show your boss like, hey, look how valuable I am because I got this certification. And we actually worked with a vendor. His name is Daniel Park. He is an author of the definitive guide to Camtasia and a former TechSmithy. That's what we call ourselves, TechSmithies. And so we work with him in developing that program, and we've been getting really great feedback from everybody that's going through it. And from an instructional side of things, it's really been fun to put together something that's really meaty and got a lot of content and a lot of materials to work with. So that's been exciting. Definitely something, if you have a Camtasia and you have maintenance, check that out. The other thing is the TechSmith Academy. And that's the link down below that you can see. TechSmith Academy is a free platform. So it's a free resource for anyone that wants to access it. You just need to go and create an account. If you already have a TechSmith account, you can get into this already. But then what we have there is a bunch of video courses. And so it's like you can see here, the couple of the options are like writing and using scripts, expert advice from video marketers, that's where we sat down with, I think 13 different video marketers. And these are people who have like hundreds of thousands of subscribers on YouTube. And they share with us things that they do like about making better video, how to get better on camera. And I know a couple of people have been to me like, I'm an instructional designer. I don't want to listen to YouTubers. Well, the thing is, don't look at them as YouTubers. Think of them as subject matter experts in the video space. They're making videos 1 to 3 times a week. They're publishing it that frequently, and they've been very successful at engaging audiences, drawing people in, and building their brand. All the things that I think a good instructional designer also wants to do with their training, right? You want to engage people, you want to draw them in, you want to actually build whatever understanding or engagement with the thing that you're talking about.
Yeah,
so
I
the Academy,
I suppose you can't teach them if they're not paying attention in the first place, right?
Exactly. Or if they don't watch your video at all because it's boring, so there's lessons there that we can learn. So we've got interviews with them. We've got a lot of kind of more tutorial based stuff. We're working on right now is a course. We sat down with 14 people from the training field. So names you might recognize like Bob Pike, Trish Yule, Joe Ganshi. Who are some of the, there was 14 of them. I don't remember everybody. Sam Rogers. There's some really great people, and they talk about everything about creating training, working with subject matter experts, using visuals and images in your training work.
Sure.
And we're pulling all that stuff out, putting it into course format. So taking the best of each interview and then, creating some guides around it, but also we're releasing the full interview. So if you're like, oh man, Bob Pike said some great stuff, you can go and listen to him, his half-hour interview that he did with us. So lots of material out there. We keep adding. We're working on some other stuff around kind of the whole life cycle of creating a screencast video. So it's and again, it's all free. Our goal is to help people to get better at creating visuals and video. Now, selfishly, because we make products that do that stuff, but it's really a product agnostic platform because we want people to be able to learn so that they get better. Then hopefully they'll fall into our funnel and be like, yeah, I want to use what they make. But if not, that's okay too, because we know that the industry and the people that are creating training, whether you're an instructional designer in HR or whatever job title you have, if you're creating training, we want it to really be the best it can be. And we think our tools can help you do that, and we think the training can do that as well.
We,
No,
we've
go
got
ahead.
a viewer comment we've got from Angela Anderson who says, "Love your statement. YouTubers are SMEs."
Yeah, absolutely. And we see that. I mean, that isn't YouTube a fantastic, interesting platform that, I've heard somebody say that it's the largest learning platform out there. And
Hmm.
if we look at it in that light, it becomes this invaluable resource. And the people that are not formally trained in learning and development, or they're not trained in kind of the skills that we would probably typically associate with roles like mine, or trainers, it's amazing what they're able to do, and they do it in a way that they create really good quality. They do it on a very limited budget. I mean, they face a lot of the challenges we do. Probably they don't have the same legal hurdles for compliance, but they're really great examples of when you get scrappy and a little gritty, what you can get done with making really interesting, engaging videos.
And it's interesting because in the instructional design world, for years I've been advocating take a screenwriting course, learn how to write differently, because a lot of times in e-learning, timing doesn't exist. So as a result, things go slowly. Things don't move. There's not timing is not one of the things. Emotion isn't part of it. So you start losing anything that might get somebody's attention. And as a result, that's why in a lot of places everybody goes, we hate e-learning. Can't say I blame people. And we develop e-learning, and some of the stuff we do is horrific. It's not because we want to do it. That's what the customer wants. And you try to argue the point, and they go, no, this is what we want. It's like, and they tend to be compliance courses like that. It's like, why do you torture people? Don't torture people. And so you're right. The YouTubers have a different approach, as marketing people do and everything else, which is not a bad skill for instructional designers or people involved in e-learning to learn, because it does give them a different sense of how you time things, how you look at things, how you use things like music or voice or anything else, which a lot of times people ignore. I've seen so much e-learning that has no sound, nothing, and they go, that's how they're going to learn. Well, you just lost at least half your audience, if not more. So what's the purpose of this is how they're going to learn? They're not learning. You're wasting money. And once people kind of get it, then they start changing the mindset a bit, and especially if you can quantify it. Because again, if you're not quantifying the results of the training, then you have no idea whether they liked it or not, or what they're doing. So a lot of training goes out there with no quantification. So when all is said and done, people go, I had many people look at it, but nobody really analyzed, how are people doing? Are they learning anything from it? Could we be doing something better to make the training better? No. So if you miss that component, now we have another issue. So if you get rid of all the exciting stuff, you get rid of all the retention things, you don't analyze it. So now you're left with about 10% of a lousy course. That doesn't help anybody. So.
Well, one thing I think that's interesting to your point is that I think a YouTuber, like there's one person that we interviewed, her name is Amy Landino. I think she just crossed the 300,000 subscriber mark.
Wow.
What she does when she sets up her webcast or her YouTube video, she is talking to a person, and she said she has this persona, right, of Charlotte. Charlotte is has a certain demographic, certain age, all these kind of factors that she thinks about. And when she's talking to the camera, she's not talking to the camera. She's talking to Charlotte, right? And I think sometimes we forget in our courses, we're saying, well, in this course, we're going to talk, we're do whatever. We're not actually talking to our audience. And I get, we don't always have the luxury of having a single focus, but I think that's something we can learn, is that when you're making videos, if you can talk to your audience, that's way more interesting, because then they're like, oh, you're talking to me. You mean me, right? And it's just a lot more dynamic.
And one of the biggest changes you need to do when you do that is just say you. If you just say you're going to learn how to do this. And they go, me? Wow, it's me. And it's one word, one little word. And all of a sudden, you've personalized it a whole lot more than we're going. Who's we? Who's learning here with me? And or the mythical we, good job. We did a great job on that. Who's we? I just answered the question by myself. And so you just talk to the person, make them feel included. And all of a sudden, retention probably goes up a whole lot when you say you. And again, like they say, look at the camera. You don't look otherwise. And that's all the kind of stuff that you teach also in your university. And they're great techniques to get people to understand. I used to teach courses in how to do online learning, how to do not online learning per se, but how to do blended learning, where you're in a web conference and you're trying to teach people how to teach on the web. And it's a whole different mindset again, because you really can't see the people unless they have video on, and they usually don't. So what do? How do you talk? You've got one weapon, and that's usually your voice. And without the voice, you don't have a heck of a lot else. You've got maybe graphics, visuals, but you can't bore them, because the minute you bore them, they go away. So what we used to teach is the way you know you've done well in a blended e-learning environment, whether you're showing videos, you're talking, you're including people, you're being interactive, is how many people are there after the end. In other words, if you have 200 people in your webinar, at the end, how many are still there? If you have 200, A+, you've done great. If you have 100, got to work on that a bit more. If something's not right, so you're always trying to get at least 75% or more staying. At least you're doing well. If you can get 90, wow, you've done really well. Because that gets people involved. It gets them excited, and there's a chance they'll remember.
And speaking of our audience, we've got a question from the audience, again from Angela. She asked, do you have plans to move Camtasia or a tool like Camtasia to present in an augmented reality format?
Yeah, so there's tons of stuff that's been emerging with augmented reality. I go to a lot of the conferences, and so I'm seeing more and more of that. Had the privilege of sitting on the board, or not the board, but the committee for ATD Tech Knowledge, and looking over the track for those types of sessions. And so I see a lot of that. I don't know of any plans right now for Camtasia to move into that format. I think there's a couple things that need to happen. I think, one, there needs to be probably even more of an uptake in terms of the utility usage of augmented reality. There's kind of got to make that business case for it. I think if our customers are saying to us that's something that they need, and we can see that it's evident, and there's things that we think we can do well, then it's always a possibility. But for right now, I'd probably take a stance and say, not officially being able to say anything for the company in that capacity, but I'd say probably not right now. I think what we'd want to, again, see is that business case, kind of the uses go up. I think there's still a lot of groundwork to be laid for tools that would make something like that we would want to do. We're really focused on visuals and images, and right now I could see it would be pretty tough to move into that space, but you never know. And so if there's a need, I recommend that you go out and you talk to us. We've got feedback.techsmith.com. You can post and ask the question. You can message me, and I can forward that on to product teams, and happy to raise the flag up a little bit so that the company knows that that's a desire. But then we'd want to see, from a business perspective, what would that look like, and what would the needs be?
Angela, that's a great question too, because right now that's one of the memes. Everybody's talking about augmented reality, virtual reality. And we have a lot of people in this world who aren't even in reality. So I guess that's probably apropos, but we live in California, so we know. But seriously, it's an interesting topic that doesn't fit many business cases yet. Maybe it will in the future. But it is interesting to see where that winds up. We had a show maybe about 3-4 shows ago on augmented and virtual reality. Take a look at that one. We had Leslie Price was in it, and we had we did a couple of shows on that one. Who was on the recent one, Harold?
Well, I remember we talked a bit about that in Amy with Amy Morrissey.
Yes. And Facchini.
Yeah, Marco Facchini.
Marco Facchini. He did a good
Marco,
job on
yeah.
that. You know Marco?
I do know Marco.
He's a good guy.
Met in person even. So.
Yeah. Yeah, so we had a good show with him.
I think there's a lot of room in the learning and development space for augmented reality. And I think, but it's like any product development. When we get into, and whether you're designing and training as a product, or you're designing software as a product, where we know our core competencies are today are screen capture, screen image, screen video, editing, those things. And what we're seeing is like we just launched Assets for Camtasia, right? So Assets is a package you can buy on a yearly subscription that gives you access to like 500,000 pieces of stock photos, images, music, things like that. So that makes sense in our core competency. We also launched in the last year or two a product called Video Review. And Video Review is a way for your, to upload your video, and inline people can give comments and feedback on the video. And so those things fit in the core competency. Augmented reality is something I know we don't have enough experience with to be like, yes, let's do that. But I do think from a learning perspective, especially in health and safety, which was my previous background, and some other spaces, I feel like there's stuff there. It's going to mature. And what we're going to see is, I think we're still in that really early, if you know the valley of Uncanny Valley, where it goes up, early adopters. We're still, I think, fairly early in kind of augmented reality, virtual reality. It'll be interesting in the next 2 years. We'll see, as Apple has been putting more and more resources into developing their like devices and emphasizing, augmented reality through the device. When they get that, when they nail that experience, and we see Microsoft jumping in, and they've already got like the HoloLens and things like that. When we see them make the next step forward, then I think that will be a game changer. When it becomes more part of your day-to-day, like, I expect to encounter augmented reality, our lives in learning and development will become much easier. And then we'll see tools that I think will develop to make creation, editing, designing, or doing whatever much more prevalent. But I still think we're early.
Now, just an idea where you could use Camtasia with augmented reality. Let's say you have a subject, this is for Angela. Let's say you have a subject in a room looking at things, and he sees a monitor. He goes up to the monitor, maybe presses something, and you could have a Camtasia video playing in there of something that you may want to teach them. Start small, and all of a sudden the monitor is now big, and you could be showing that. So you could combine elements of what Camtasia can do with your virtual reality. That would be pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, I definitely think so. That's a nice thing about Camtasia as a tool, right? Is it's flexible enough that, and we see this more and more, that it works with the other e-learning development tools. If we hear from people using Articulate Storyline, we hear from people using Captivate. Even, you can put a video and it fits in a lot of situations, and that's the brilliant thing about, I think, having video as it is.
Yeah.
So, but it'll be interesting to see where the future goes.
Now, before we wrap up, Matt, what do you think? Or I should say, how much difference is it making now for people who do training video versus more of an interactive learning, which has had its day, it's still there, it's doing okay, but it hasn't been the greatest, ground shaker in the whole world. But video is popular, and video keeps getting more and more and more popular. Do you see more things going into video in training versus, it's a lot cheaper to go into video for a lot of things. And do you see that happening more?
Well, I think one of the things that's, I think, is important to think about here is the access to creation materials or tools has just, skyrocketed. When the iPhone first came out, we got a camera that we could carry everywhere. That made sense kind of in terms of context. Whereas there was cameras, you could take it anywhere you wanted. But I think now that we've got this always on, always with this device, it's just so much easier to create it. So I think one of the reasons we see this more and more video is because it's easier to create. Like and I know it's taken a long time to perfect your setup, but think about how easy it is to go live. We connected at 1:45 my time, and here we are. We're broadcasting to the world. So I think there's a lot saying about the ease, the access, all those things we're gonna continue to see get better and better, and the video is gonna grow. I don't think this means that we're not going to have interactivity stuff. I think it's going to mean that overall what we're going to do is we're going to save those for really when it makes sense and it's really important. So, you have to think, like, do I need to have this piece be interactive? And if yes, is it worth the cost of doing it? Because it does take more time. And so I think we'll just see more and more video. We'll see, interactivity will continue to be important. It will continue to be important in the right ways. Because otherwise, if you're trying to do everything interactive, then it's never going to it won't have the same effect. But I think the other thing that's going to be true about video is we're going to see disposable content.
That's true.
Or things you can throw away.
That's true. Or things. Well, Matt, it's been a real pleasure having you on, joining us today, telling us a little bit about what's happening with TechSmith and Camtasia. And I know it's going to get exciting. I know we got the new version, so we're going to be playing with that. I think some of us already have in here. But we wish you guys the best, and thanks for sharing your experience and what you do. And like I said from the beginning, we appreciate the fact that it works. Quality is job one. You guys do a good job on that. If they made cars as well as the software, man, Michigan would really be kicking. But you guys just knock it out. So this is great. My screen just went blank.
Well, thank you. And thanks again.
Thank you. Harold, we're blank here.
Your screen, the cable must have come loose
Oh,
somehow.
okay.
We're still...
Right.
Well, and also, thank you to Angela, and also Kevin Siegel joined in, and he said, good stuff, guys. So thanks, everyone in the audience.
Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin. And
have a good one, everyone. We'll see you next week with another show. Take care. Bye-bye.
bye, everyone.